Hey friends! I'm back in Germany, as you can see, in my old apartment, and today I'm reviewing quarter 2 and also discussing my goals for quarter 3 when it comes to learning Japanese. So let's go. For quarter 2 I had 7 goals. I wanted to read a lot of Japanese books and also being able to understand Japanese way better. I read 2 manga and 7 books, and I started another book. So almost 10 in total, which is very, very good. I think I was quite fast compared to the other months, which also makes sense because I didn't visit language school anymore. And I have to say I pushed a bit when it comes to the difficulty level of the books that I read, because before that I mostly read manga and books that were a little bit easier, like for elementary school kids sometimes. And quarter 2 I read quite a few books that were made for adults, and even though it was of course quite challenging, it was way more fun, and I had way more motivation to read them because I actually read books about topics that are present in my life right now or that I'm simply interested in. So it was very fun to learn Japanese and also read about another topic that I want to learn about as well, so I can learn 2 things at the same time. And from the books that I read, I actually have 2 that are my favorite books that I read so far in Japanese, so I would count this as a big win. And since I don't want to talk too much about all of the books that I read, I will just put some pictures here from the books and the ratings, but I will talk about 2 of my favorites. The first one that I will talk about is the Honto no Yasumi Ho. Actually, the title is a bit longer, but I don't want to read all of that now. And I think I talked about it a bit in my Thailand vlog. I really like this book because even though it dealt with quite a few difficult topics and it had quite a few medical terms, it was very accessible, and the author really did a good job in explaining everything so that it's understandable, but you would still learn something new. It's actually about how to rest properly, and theories that were discussed in the book were very interesting. Was the polyvagal theory, and the other one I forgot. It was a very good book, and I took multiple action steps for my life to implement myself because I'm not very good at resting. Then the next one that I really liked was Manga de Wakaru Otona no ADHD Controlu Gaido. Sometimes so weird saying English words in Japanese. It was so good because it's not very thick, but it still gave a really good impression about adult ADHD. And even if you don't know anything about it, I feel like it would be a very good book to read, and then you would understand most of it, I guess. I know quite a lot about ADHD already, so I wasn't sure if I would learn something new, but actually there were a lot of actionable tips inside the book, and some of them I haven't even heard somewhere else, even though I watch a lot of YouTube videos, I listen to a lot of podcasts. However, I didn't like that they didn't cover all of the struggles you could have when you have ADHD. Some problems were brushed over quite quickly, like the hyperactivity, even though it's not that easy to say, yeah, just move more, because there are also other things linked to hyperactivity, you know, like other negative things and coping mechanisms and stuff. So yeah, it wasn't perfect, but still a very good book. So if you're interested in ADHD and you can read Japanese, I would recommend, especially because there are a lot of manga sequences and it makes it a lot easier to understand, and there's always 2 or 3 pages of just normal text and then a few pages of a manga scene. It's kind of acting out what the text is portraying. So it's actually very easy to visually see how the problems manifest in everyday life. And I actually bought another book from the same series about ADHD in women. I'm actually currently reading that one, but it's already quarter 3, so I will not talk about this one. Next quarter you will hear my opinion about it. And then the second goal was to finish the Gogo Nihon online course, which I did. And I also did a review video about the course, so if you want to see that, I will link it at the top. And I wanted to do 1 page of the Kanji Master N3, which is this book. However, I only finished 1 chapter out of 18, so there's still more to go through. I will give my proper review once I'm finished with the book. And then the next goal was to keep up my listening ability by listening to podcasts, ideally in the morning. At first, I struggled a little bit with it, but once I got into the routine of just waking up, putting in my headphones and turning on the podcast, it was quite easy actually, and I stuck to listening at least 5 times a week, sometimes even the whole week. So yeah, this was pretty successful, I would say, and I got quite a few hours of listening in that way. And then the next goal was writing 1 essay a month using a topic and the words from the mini story book, this one that we used in language school. However, I didn't do that because it felt kind of a bit too much, even though I guess it wouldn't really take that much time, maybe an hour or two, but it felt kind of like a big project, and I wanted to spend most of my time that I had left to like see friends and read books instead. So that's what I did. But I also wrote some diary entries in my Japanese journal, so I would still count this as a win. And the whole reason for this goal was to keep up my writing abilities, and I guess I kind of did that. And then I wanted to finish the Jukyu Eiko textbook and continue with the Try N3 textbook. However, we finished them already in language school, so I already did that and didn't have to do anything regarding that. And then when it comes to the study resources that I used, of course, the Gogo Nihon online course, which I will also link below if you're interested. I have an affiliate link, and the Kanji Master N3 book that I showed you. And when it comes to apps, I used Anki, Bunpro, and JLPT Jisho. That's basically it for proper study resources that are intended for studying. So I didn't use a lot, which was still okay because yeah, it was very fun to read quite a lot, and also going through the course was quite relaxing because I didn't have to plan exactly what I want to do, and I didn't have to coordinate multiple textbooks. And when it comes to immersion resources, except for the books that I showed you that I read, I also watched Terrace House Allure State for the 4th time, I guess. I think I only watched all of the episodes 2 times, and then I started the series another 2 times. So this time as well, I think I only watched 4 or 5 episodes, but I really like watching it over and over again because it's kind of familiar, and I feel like every time I watch it, I understand more, and it kind of feels like coming home. I think it was like the first Terrace House that I ever watched, and I think one of the first Japanese TV shows actually that I watched. So yeah, kind of feels very original to my beginnings in studying, I guess. I also watched The Boyfriend, which was a very, very cute dating show for gay Japanese guys. I had quite a big break in between because I lost interest when one of the guys left, but I think I almost finished it. I only had 1 episode left, and then I didn't manage to watch it while I was still in Japan with my Japanese Netflix. And then I listened to quite a few different podcasts. Of course, Japanese with Shun and Oyasumi Japanese with Shun. I mean, I mentioned this every single quarter. You know by now that it's my favorite podcast, or my 2 favorite podcasts, because he talks about all the things that I'm interested in. Sometimes psychology, depending on like what guests he has on, sports in general, and also New Zealand. And I lived in New Zealand for a month, so it feels very familiar and it feels very comforting, I guess. I also tried to listen to other podcasts, for example the Yu no Nihongo podcast, because I know this one is very popular with a lot of people, but I couldn't really get into it. I guess it's mostly the topics, because I think he talks a lot about Mexico, and I'm not that interested like in Mexico as a country, so I couldn't really get into it. And then I also listened to Speak Japanese Naturally, which was quite nice to listen to. I really like her voice, even though similar to the Yu no Nihongo podcast. I think the topics were not really my taste. And then Momoko to Nihongo, and I have to admit I kind of forgot what she talked about in her podcast. I think I only listened to the podcast at the start of April, and then I kind of went back to Shun's podcast. I also listened to the Everyday Japanese podcast, and I think from all of the other podcasts, I like this one the most. But yeah, I'm still on the hunt for good podcasts. And if you know a podcast in Japanese, of course, ideally intermediate level that deals with psychology, nutrition, language learning, things like that, give me recommendations, please. I hope I can find another one that I can get into, because I listened to all of the episodes from Shun's podcast, so now I really need a new podcast. And in general, in quarter 2, I only spent half of the time studying compared to quarter 1, which was kind of expected because in quarter 1 I was still in language school and we had a lot of school. I studied a lot and it was very unsustainable and very unhealthy, and especially as a working adult, not realistic. I still spent, I think, over 200 hours, which is quite a lot, but learning Japanese is quite an important part of my life, and I think it will be like that for a long time. And since language school ended in March, I had quite a bit of free time, and yeah, since I didn't spend all of the time studying, I had a lot of time to just think and process things that happened over the last 1 or 2 years, including my own ADHD diagnosis, which is why I read the books that I read. And yeah, I got it last year in spring, but during that time I got the diagnosis, I was very busy preparing for Japan and saving money, studying a lot so I could get into a higher level in school and stuff. So I never really took the time to properly sit down and digest everything and reflect on things. And now I had the time to do that the last few months, and also educating myself more about it. And even though I feel like I only know the surface because there's so much more that I have to learn and I have to understand, I had more time to reflect on my own work ethics, you could say, because I've always felt like I need to do more and nothing is ever enough. This also kind of reflected in studying, I guess, because I pushed myself quite a lot. And during the last months, I developed more self-compassion and also more self-acceptance, which also led me to wanting to slow down my studying a bit and also making more time for human connections and sport, healthy eating and things. Because I have hyperactive ADHD, and sitting at the desk studying for hours after sitting at the desk working for a lot of hours a day doesn't really help with that. I mean, I did some adjustments. I also even got a walking pad now and height adjustable desk that I haven't built yet. So I'm working on living a healthier lifestyle than I did before, even though it was already healthy. But I feel like we can always improve a little bit. 2 of the main drivers for this change were the books that I read. I also got a lot more books about similar topics, but I will tell you more about them in the next video, where I will show you all the books that I brought from Japan to Germany. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe. So now let's discuss the quarter 3 goals. I actually, again, have 7 goals, and the first one is still reading a lot of Japanese. If you remember the video I did in January where I talked about my big vision for the year, reading in Japanese is the #1 goal and the most important goal for me. That's why it's still on here. And then I want to keep studying 5 words a week from my frequent word list, where I will collect all the words that I encounter in the different resources that I read. And if I encounter 1 word in at least 5 different resources, then I will study it. And I kind of feel like I have to push this number up a lot, because now I have like 350 words in this folder, and there are more words coming every week. A lot to learn, I guess. But yeah, I told myself I will start with 5 a week because this is very little and I have other resources where I will study vocab from. So I don't want to overwhelm myself. And then the textbook that I will study from is the Quartet textbook. I already started that one in 2023, I think, before I got the Gogo Nihon N3 course, but I never finished chapter 1, so I just thought, okay, I should just start again from the start, and it's an equivalent to the N3 level, so a good repetition, I hope. My goal is to do 1 chapter a month, and I think it has 6 chapters, so I should be finished by the end of the year with the book. And it also comes with a workbook, which I will also do, of course. And then again, I have the goal of writing 1 essay a month using the vocab from the mini story book, this one. And I will just leave it on there because now I have a bit more time. There's no pressure of I have to see everything from Japan before I leave. So yeah, I think this will be more realistic to do actually. And again, I want to keep up my listening skill with listening to podcasts in the morning. And I need a new podcast for that. We already discussed that. But yeah, to be honest, currently I'm struggling a bit because there's a new environment here again and the habit didn't transfer from Japan. So yeah, now I have to kind of rebuild it again, but we will get there eventually. And then I also want to do 1 chapter a month from the Kanji Master N3. And I told you it has actually 18 chapters, so quite a lot to go through, but I don't want to overwhelm myself again. So if I feel like I can do more, I will do more, of course, but this is the minimal goal that I want to achieve every month. And then the mini storybook. I want to finish a chapter a month as well. So for every book, 1 chapter a month, which is very easy to remember and also pretty easy to do, I guess, because usually there are 70 to 100 words in 1 chapter. So that's quite easy to do. So like 3 words a day, kind of. And I also have to learn some vocabulary from the quartet book. So I guess it will come down to 5 new vocab words a day or something. Again, I don't want to overwhelm myself. So we're gonna do it very relaxed this quarter. I mean, I already did my first week. I managed to achieve everything and I had to do taxes as well. So I guess that's a good sign. I'm very excited for all the books that I will hopefully read and just being able to study on my own again and choose what I want to do. It's also very nice to go back to the quartet book because I still remember that the things in the first chapter felt quite hard for me back then, but now it's so easy and I know most of the grammar points. So yeah, it's a good feeling. And since I got the question a few times, I think here on YouTube and on Instagram, what about the JLPT? So technically, I guess I would pass the N3 by now because we did a few practice JLPTs in school and I passed 2 out of 3. And the one that I didn't pass was at the first day of school when I only studied half of N3. So I guess this doesn't count. Again, I don't want to stress myself out. So I didn't want to put pressure on myself with a deadline. And I don't need the N3 or even the N2 for anything right now. So it's just a tool to motivate myself, I guess. And I decided, for now at least, that I will do it next summer. So in a year, which is quite a lot of time. But as I told you, I want to read a lot. And I still have quite a few resources to go through with like N3 material that I bought before I went to Japan. And I really want to build a very, very solid foundation when it comes to the N3 things. Because I feel like before my foundation was very shaky in the N5 and 4 level because I studied a lot in not a lot of time and I kind of forgot a lot of things along the way and now I have to relearn them, which is kind of natural, of course, but I just want to make sure the N3 stuff is very, very solid. I understand everything, I can use everything because I don't want to sound like a 5-year-old when talking. So those are the goals for quarter 3. Also let me know how your quarter went and what your goals are for the new quarter and if you learned anything new, if you tried a new study method or something like that. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you in my next video where I will show you all of the books that I bought in Japan. See you then. Bye bye.